Hi and welcome to the One Arden Food Forest here on the 51st floor of Capital Spring in central Singapore, 280 metres up, which makes it the world's highest edible garden, which is very exciting. The garden was built about 10 months ago and is split into different sections. We produce about 80 kilograms of produce every month for the kitchen, which is quite a great amount for such a small space. And I'll take you through walk through the garden right now. So as I said, there's different themes to the garden. So over here we have a tropical wellness garden. These are medicinal plants used throughout the region and in traditional Chinese medicine. They are also used for cuisine and therefore used in the kitchen. To the right here is a small flower garden. The kitchen goes through quite a large amount of ornamental flowers on a daily basis, both as decorations for plating up but also for the flavour. Some examples would be Egyptian star cluster, which comes in different colours, reds, purples, whites and pinks. They particularly like that, and French marigold over the back. If we keep walking up through the garden, you'll see that we have quite a different mix of plants, essentially trying to make the best use of a limited space. So we have things like tropical bananas, which also has fruit at the back there, which I'll show you. So in such a small space, we need to be creative to try to get the most out of it. So we have these small plots. This, for example, are radish, which will be ready in about a month's time. And then at the same time, we have greens along the back. So we're always looking for little tricks to squeeze things in to make it productive for the kitchen, to try to hit that 80 to 90 kilograms a month in produce. We also have some quite fun things, not necessarily used by the kitchen, but we keep these for the public interest because we have a lot of public come up. It's open to the public. So bananas, for example, which have just come out the last few days, is quite fun. These aren't the Cavendish bananas that you'd be used to that's sold in supermarkets. These are much smaller native varieties. So this area was earmarked as a Singapore Heritage Garden. When the garden was first built about 10 months ago, a lot of these gardens had a very, how should I say, pure planting choice. So plants were only specific for those areas. But as time has gone on, we need to make use of what we have, the limited space. And so some of the plants have kind of crept into gardens that they don't necessarily belong, but that's more about necessity than anything else. But here we have roselle, and you can see some of the buds coming through here, the calyx. So those are used in tea by the kitchen, and the leaves for their signature salad, the Kala salad. You'll see these larger blocks of planting. This is how we get around getting that 80 kilograms without making it look too boring. It'd be a lot easier for us to plant this entire section up with just one variety of plant. But to make it interesting for the clients and for the public, we split them up into smaller sections and space them throughout the garden. So this is fame flower, which is used again in the signature salad by Kala, going through several kilos a week of that. That patch will last maybe 2 or 3 days, but then we have different patches throughout the garden. There's a lot of plants that people don't realize are actually edible. So here is amaranth. The leaf again used in the signature salad, and the flowers are edible as well and used by the kitchen. So this is a Japanese garden. As you will hopefully know, there's 2 kitchens up here, the Australian kitchen, Kala, and Umi, the Japanese kitchen. This would be normally planted up with Japanese mustards. So if you come up here, you'll hopefully see some lovely Japanese mustards. We actually harvested these about 3 weeks ago, and so they've been reseeded. So it's looking a little bit bare at the moment, but hopefully when you come up, that'll be all lush and full and you can try some of the produce. Again, just examples of how we try to use the space. So here we have Japanese mustards, in this case Komatsuna, mixed in with the ornamental flowers, Egyptian star cluster and the roselle. So again, hiding smaller patches within larger planting plans. It's not just the kitchen, it's also about the bar. So here we have apple mint, not that common in Singapore and used extensively by the kitchen. There's several different mint varieties throughout the garden, including Australian mints, which are up the back, which we'll talk about later. In this section up here, more flowers. The kitchen love to have their different flowers, different colors, different shades, different textures, again, for all their plating up. And what an incredible view to look over as you're working. I've certainly worked in worse places. In these sections here, we have the greens. Perennial greens, so once planted, you can keep harvesting over and over again. And there's two types that are very popular for the kitchen. This is wild watercress, and the green in the back is Brazilian spinach. And the kitchen will go through several kilograms of that every month. Those two are one of the key plants for the kitchen. And there's a lovely view through here. Those particular plants like to have some semi-shaded conditions. So we have them overplanted with mulberry, miracle berry, and a lovely little path running back through there. So we'll be there, well, most mornings with a big tub, harvesting all of that for the kitchen. This is a very fun garden for Singapore. It's the Mediterranean garden. It's quite unique. So when we built this garden up here, we weren't sure what was going to work. From our knowledge, nobody else has tried to build an edible garden so high. These plants normally do very poorly in Singapore, but up here on the 51st floor, 280 meters up, they do extremely well. The big difference is that it is generally a few degrees cooler up here, and we have a constant breeze running through the garden being so high up. Those two factors mean that we can grow plants that you can't grow elsewhere in Singapore. So if you were to try to grow rosemary, for example, or lavender over here, we also have sage, thyme. Those plants are very difficult to grow in the tropics. They suffer from many fungal problems. But up here, with that lovely breeze, they do fantastic. So no skill on my behalf, it's just a unique microclimate that we have up here. Running through the middle is purslane. Purslane in a lot of other countries is considered to be a weed. Here it's used extensively by the kitchen. The stem, leaf and flowers are all edible, and they're used in salads. As you can see, we even have a grape up here, which is quite fun. The star of the show, as far as the public are concerned whenever they come up, is our pumpkin patch over here. And here's a lovely pumpkin getting ready to go to the kitchen in probably another couple of weeks. Very interesting that pumpkin doesn't pollinate very well in the tropics, and so we have to pollinate all of these by hand. The creepy crawlies that you would normally find don't come up this high to pollinate for us, and so we do it all by hand. But we normally get 3 or 4 of these a month out to the kitchen. So as I said before, there's two restaurants on the 51st floor, the Japanese and the Australian. This is the Australian native garden. This is quite pioneering in Singapore when we first built it. So a lot of these plants, actually most of these plants have never been tried in Singapore before. When the garden was built, we had them shipped over from Australia, put into the garden, and it was essentially survival of the fittest. We weren't sure what would work and what wouldn't. Now that we know what is working, these will be all taken out and moved to different areas of the garden and try to space them out a bit more. But for example, we have mints, Australian mints, which the kitchen and both the bar like to use extensively. We have things like lemon myrtle. We also have cinnamon myrtle and rose myrtle. Myrtle is a very large family. Very, very strong lemony smell, much like lemongrass. Over here we have finger lime, native Australian lime, now being commercially grown in Australia and also in South America, and so you'll start to see the finger limes in your supermarkets quite soon, being grown in very large quantities. Chefs love them. It's quite an exciting fruit. It takes about 3 years for them to fruit, so this one still has a bit longer to go. Thank you very much for coming for a walk with me through the garden. It's a very unique garden, as I said, the world's highest. It's a bit of a work in progress and a bit of an experiment to see whether organic farming works this high up. Hope to see you soon.